Grab your coffee, popcorn, whatever it is. This is gonna be a crazy one, guys. Here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you already know me. My name is Sean. I'm a 24-year-old traveler based in New Jersey, and today I'm gonna tell you guys about the absolutely true experience of me getting involved in a civil war in Bolivia. No joke. So let's hop into it. Alright, so to set the scene for you guys and give you some context, I went to Bolivia with a bunch of my high school classmates back in the summer of 2017, and it was through an adventure volunteer type of organization. That was the gist of the trip for 2 weeks. Basically, we spent a bunch of time in La Paz, which is the capital. We spent some time also in the countryside, and most importantly, we were supposed to spend 2 or 3 days in Isla del Sol. So, Isla del Sol is a small Bolivian island that sits on Lake Titicaca, which is between mainland Bolivia and Peru. It's about 10 miles from the nearest town called Copacabana, where me and my group stayed for 1 or 2 nights before heading to the island. And at the time, to get to the crux of the story, there was major tensions that kept building around tourism on the island between the north and the southern part of the island, just like the American Civil War pretty much. And basically over several months, if not years, the tensions got so escalated that it led to physical violence from the north onto the south over tourism. The southern part of the island had a lot more infrastructure and more activities to do for tourists, so most of the docks for tourism groups were in the south, and the north wasn't really happy with that. That's why they started getting really physical with the southerners and creating all this tension. Keep in mind, there was no mention of this conflict before leaving on the trip, or even right up until we were supposed to go to this island. We thought it was literally smooth sailing, no pun intended, going to this place, and that everything was fine. And as you'll learn shortly, that was definitely not the case. So I'll keep explaining. Oh, and one last thing to mention before I get into the actual details of the story. My group and all of us agreed to not bring our phones to Bolivia because we wanted to immerse ourselves and disconnect. So we did have a chaperone and someone affiliated with the company who was a guide touring with us. They both had their phones as a means of communication, of course. But me and my classmates had no way of contacting anybody, especially our families. So just keep that in mind as we continue the story here. All right, hopping into the story itself. So just to set the scene, it's a calm Wednesday morning about 7:30 a.m. My group and I were packing up all our gear to leave Copacabana and take the short boat ride to Isla del Sol, where we'd be spending 2 or 3 days and nights hiking, trekking, camping. So we get on the boat, calm waters, literally setting sail, everything's perfectly fine. I remember I was literally listening to music on my iPod Shuffle to pass the time. I don't know if you guys remember that. Anyways, we arrive on this island, everything is peaceful. We have no signs that there's any tensions going on, actually, to our surprise. So we just start our trek, day 1, hike for a few hours, and get set up on our first campsite where we had an absolutely gorgeous view and sunset, which I'll show you a photo here now. Nonetheless, everything was going well, so it's a very good start. So anyways, we wake up the next morning around 6 or 7 a.m. again to continue our trek further inland on the island, and we were supposed to do a trail that, again, we started at the bottom where we docked in the south. It was going to take us all the way up into the northern part of the island, and we were supposed to spend the second day on a beach where we'd camp nearby and just relax for the day and get some rest. Now, here's where it starts to get a little hairy. About an hour or two into this second day hike, our chaperone, which was actually my high school principal at the time, apparently gets a call from one of the other groups that was traveling nearby. They were basically following our itinerary, but just with 1 day lag time. And it was not a good call. Apparently the group behind us, which again was following our itinerary, had been held up in the south. They weren't able to dock due to a disagreement. We didn't get any more details from that, but we just knew that their plans were being held up and something was amiss. No immediate concern on our part and no reason to stop the trek. So we kept going, but had something in the back of our mind just to be aware of, but it gets worse. So it's around lunchtime now. We spent, a couple more hours hiking, relaxing, eating our sandwiches, whatever. And our principal, the chaperone, again, gets another call. And this time, as he's on the phone, his face immediately goes super pale. You could tell that something was seriously wrong, and it was a lot worse than a disagreement, as it had been called before. Yeah, things were not good. As I previously mentioned, there are obviously tensions on this island over tourism between the north and the south. And so it turns out that the reason that the boat with the other group could not dock was because some northerners actually hijacked the boat and prevented it docking in the south. Worse than that, it wasn't like they were just holding up this group. They actually had held the group chaperone there, who was the superintendent of my school district. Just think of someone who's like the leader of all the schools in a town or whatever. Apparently, I think he was held at knife point and also profusely beaten, causing him to bleed, and actually insane. When you can imagine all the others, all my classmates on that boat too, at the time were definitely freaking out and didn't know what the hell was going on, and were very scared because, again, there was no inkling of warning that there was any kind of conflict like this occurring. So they thought it was just some random hijack too, and they were targeted. So not good. So obviously we're communicated this information, and we were supposed to continue hiking into the northern part of the island, and that was now completely out of the question. We didn't want to start going further up there. They see a group of a bunch of people that are clearly tourists in the area, and we get held up, or even worse, something escalates with our group. So of course the obvious answer was to turn back around. We had no idea, even on the way back now, if we'd be running into maybe some other hostile people, or we'd have some kind of conflict just while we're hiking. And you just keep in mind, we have like these 60-70 pound or 60-70 liter Osprey bags on our back. There's a group of like 20 of us, so can't really hide or anything if this conflict is gonna continue coming inland. So not good at all. So as we started to plan our way back, we tried to take a different route that was more on the main path, and also, even though it was a more touristy path, our idea was that there'd be a lot more just people in the area that would hopefully be, from the south or just other tourists. So it'd be tougher for a major commotion to occur on the way back. And we took that trail, and the entire time my principal, the other leader from the company that was with us, the guide, they were calling back and forth between the other groups, just checking in on them. Apparently at this point they were still being held up and forced to turn back around to Copacabana, which I think they did safely, and that was the end of the hostility for them. Luckily for us, we actually ran into a few locals in the south, though, southern locals, and they were nice enough to walk back with us just to hopefully be some protection or de-escalation if needed, getting back to the initial dock where we started. So definitely a huge shout out to those folks, and luckily we made it all the way back after several hours, very, very tiring and precarious hours of hiking back and not knowing what the heck had happened to us, especially since this other group basically hijacked us, as I mentioned. But all was okay. We boarded the boat back to Copacabana and made it there safely. So that is my short story for you guys involved with this Bolivian Civil War, and yeah, just have a few closing remarks. So, long story short, it was definitely one of the more freaky experiences that I've had in my life traveling. I've definitely had some other ones as well since then, and I know it probably won't be my last when traveling, and I'm happy to talk a bunch more about other travel mishaps and scary moments that I've had. If you find this type of video interesting, I can maybe do a bit of a series behind it. Just let me know if you like it, give it a like or comment below, let me know your thoughts. But it really goes to show, and the biggest thing I've learned when traveling is adaptability. You could have everything planned out to a T, even if it's like a vacation where everything is completely accommodated for you. There's probably something that's not going to go right. It's almost inevitable. Make sure you have some adaptability to you, or be open at least to the possibility. Also, to my knowledge, a few months after this incident, I don't think there were any further reports of hostility occurring on the island. So if you were planning on visiting Isla del Sol or Bolivia in general, of course, when traveling any place, have your guard up and be aware of things around you, but I don't want it to fully deter you from visiting the island. I think these tensions have subsided. Obviously, double check that. Don't listen to me as gospel. I think it's okay now. This was, again, like 8 years ago. And also too, I just want to say, obviously this was a very bad moment and story for the island, but I really don't want the one story to cast a bad shadow over the entire place. I mean, some of the other stuff that we did on the island had some really good, moments just on the trek. It's a beautiful island to visit if you want to relax or hike, and I also met some really nice people on the way. Anyways, guys, that is pretty much everything for this video. If you're still watching at this point, I just want to say a massive thank you to you guys. It's really a pleasure to be able to talk about my travel experiences and then just share the vlogs with all of you and have you guys watch and enjoy that content. It's something I obviously love to do and hope to do a lot more of it. So once again, if you want to see more videos like this, or if you like this video, it'd mean a lot if you give it a like, comment below your thoughts, even subscribe. All those things really, really help me out too. So thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.